NASA iTech is a program that we have within the Space Technology Mission Directorate Office that searches for cutting-edge technologies that are solving problems on Earth that also have the potential to be a solution for NASA and the space industry.
What's unique about the NASA iTech program is that it operates in profoundly different, less traditional ways. They send out a technology call for applications to address specific NASA needs.
We have our subject matter experts, our chief technologists, provide endorsement, and with that, work hand in hand with the investors that are there.
Entrepreneurs need courage to do what they do. They need to have quite a bit of endurance to be able to withstand the pressures of being an entrepreneur. And they really need an ecosystem in their surroundings to help them move that technology forward.
Normally when you submit a proposal, you're never going to get the opportunity that you get to sit down with our chief technologist across our agency. And that's critical. It's critical for the entrepreneurs.
And the great thing just from sitting at the NASA iTech was looking at how some of these technologies, even though they were geared for space, some of the technologies could be repurposed for different scientific challenges in the environment, in space, and medicine.
How much better than having the CTO of a NASA center sitting with me talking to that technology?
The access and really collaboration that we get as finalists has been incredibly helpful and creates an opportunity for us to solve problems.
The beauty of it is those discussions are coming back with literally the technologists and the experts right now in the industry.
We are building a network of data relay satellites that can help remote sensing satellites get more data to the ground and reduce latency.
Where your Roomba and your drone have a kid, and the kid can disinfect the space station.
Our system can process wastewater just like it does in the body and urine, so that you get clean, deliverable water to a community on the ground.
Our team has developed a suite of patent-pending miniature robots that fit inside the pathways of the body.
We provide lifelike motion for the next generation of robotics and automation.
And I'm here to tell you about our needle-free jet injection technology.
It's an exercise machine that grabs intelligent data from astronauts in a microgravity environment.
We have designed a small, compact, lightweight apparatus for high-contrast imaging of dim exoplanets next to bright stars.
NASA iTech is reaching out to identify cutting-edge technologies that do have a commercial market value, but also can be customized to work within the space agency. We all benefit from that.
Hi, I'm Kira Blackwell, and I wanted to just kind of go over what you can actually expect today. I want to thank you for joining the Ignite the Night Ohio. We have a great lineup of entrepreneurs developing great technologies, as well as we have a special message coming out from the Undersecretary for the Department of State, Keith Kroc. And then we also have the Lieutenant Governor that's also going to be speaking. So I hope that you can join us and also stay the entire time so that you can see these amazing technologies that people are developing in the state of Ohio, as well as be able to have an opportunity to see who the top company is that we select that will advance as a semifinalist. Sorry. And so I just want to introduce the video message that the Undersecretary provided for us. He couldn't join us today, but he wanted to give a message to all the Ohio entrepreneurs that are here giving their pitch today, because he also is an entrepreneur from Ohio, and he understands the trials and challenges that entrepreneurs face. And so he just wanted to sort of give you guys an encouraging message and give a shout out to each of you. So help me join watching this pitch or this message that came from the Undersecretary.
Hi, I'm Keith Kroc, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to Ignite the Night Ohio, sponsored by NASA iTech and Innovate Ohio. I'm a proud Ohio boy, born in Lakewood and raised in Rocky River. I'm also the proud father of a NASA rocket scientist who has spent the majority of his career designing the Perseverance rover's robot arm at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Matter of fact, this ring he gave me is made out of the titanium chips from what it was machined. Today, I'm honored to serve as U.S. Undersecretary of State, where I'm America's chief economic diplomat. But before this, I spent my entire career as an entrepreneur, just like many of you. I know what it takes to get a business off the ground, and it's not easy. And I can tell you this, there's no better launch pad for a career in entrepreneurship than Ohio. The people, the values, the work ethic, the diverse industries, and now this innovative ecosystem that Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted are building. All of it is a little window into what makes America the crown jewel of the global economy. And it's why I'm so confident that we can continue to take on Chinese economic aggression and win big. I'll tell you my story as an entrepreneur and a little bit about my perspective on China and the role that all of you can play in economic security. Practically everything I know about leadership and hard work, I learned from my father, who ran a small machine shop in Rocky River. When times were good, we had 5 employees who we treated like family. When times were tough, it was just him and me. I could lay a welding bead by age 12. And then I saw China wield its weapons of mass production that would gutted small manufacturers like my dad. His pain was not lost on me. Years later, I was a vice president at General Motors, where I learned that when you build a plant in China to get access to the Chinese market, you don't just give them your blueprints. You give them the process engineering and train their labor force. My first foray into entrepreneurship was when I launched a joint robotics venture with GM, which I'm proud to say is now the largest industrial robotics company in the world. From there, I went to Silicon Valley. I co-founded Rasna Corporation, where we invented mechanical design synthesis that enables engineers today around the world, like my son at NASA, to optimize their designs in real time. I went on to start Ariba, taking it public as the world's first business-to-business e-commerce company. Last year, $7 trillion of commerce was processed over the Ariba network, which is more than Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba combined. Then in 2009, I became the CEO and chairman at a small 50-person company called DocuSign. It is now a $40 billion public company. Plus, we saved the world a lot of paper cuts. But in Silicon Valley, the Chinese Communist Party's economic weapons were aimed at my head. I had my intellectual property ripped off. I saw China's strategy of seduce with money and reinforce with intimidation and retaliation. And that's what brought me to government, the China Challenge. Among our many tools to take on this challenge, none is closer than the partnership between business and government. China's approach to public-private partnership is for the Chinese Communist Party to command and control all businesses. Today's event's a good example of how the United States is different. Our government serves as a partner and an advocate for our private sector innovators. And that free market approach pays off. SpaceX and NASA have proven that. And many of you prove it every day. Jobs Ohio, Innovate Ohio, Governor DeWine, and many others play a leading role in economic development and serve as a catalyst to accelerate growth by investing in communities, helping Ohio's businesses expand, and attracting new companies to the state. The 10 entrepreneurs participating in this event are a snapshot into the brilliance that Ohio has to offer. You are creating success not just for yourselves and your employees, but for your state and your country. My advice is to build the best possible team you can, because the organization with the best team wins. And also remember that trust is the foundation of all successful relationships, whether it's in business or in life. and you've got some great, trustworthy investors here today. NASA iTech is smart to get to know you and so many other innovators around the country. We look forward to hearing from you about all the impressive projects you're working on. So I wish you all the best of luck, Godspeed, and may God bless America. Thank you very much.
So some of you, it might be your first time to ever hear about NASA iTech. And so I thought I'd give you a little bit of a history. So it was about 5 years ago, actually in September, that NASA recruited me to come to DC because of my background in the aerospace industry, entrepreneurship, as well as my ability to convene the right people at the right time in the right place. And this was before the birth of NASA iTech. So I accepted the position because I had a vision back at that time to transform the way that government, entrepreneurs, and investors were able to work together. I believed that if I set up a system that could work, that it could revolutionize technology for the space sector and potentially continue to allow those technologies to disrupt a different market. So it was like looking for the dual use technologies, right? And that was the birth of NASA iTech. That happened in August of 2016. We actually met our first set of entrepreneurs in December of that year. And so at that time, though, no one else was doing what we were doing in space, not in the space sector. And many people weren't even sure in the space industry that what we were trying to do as a team, they were pretty skeptical. They were pretty sure it wasn't going to be successful because it was a different way of doing things. But like every entrepreneur does, you sort of ignore the naysayer, right? Because I'm sure a few of you that are pitching today have heard a few no's in your lifetime. With your technology, that's not possible. And so starting something new inside the government, I heard a few no's, a few no's outside of the government saying, I'm not sure this is going to work, Kira. But that entrepreneurial spirit in me said, I believe it can. And I think if we bring the right people into the right place at the right time, magic will happen. And so I'm about to show you what that success looks like. But as I look around in our government, outside of NASA, in other government agencies, as well as companies who have started programs up like NASA outside of government, independent of that, or nonprofits, when I look at that and I see all the movement that's going on, I actually realize that what this team, what NASA has done, what in terms of funding this and supporting it, the team that I've had the privilege to be able to work with over the last 5 years, we were just a match, just one match that was really designed to ignite a fire under government agencies, entrepreneurs, investors, to be able to convene together and work together differently in a way they've never worked before. And that honor that we've been given, we can look around us and see a lot of these organizations are actually doing this well. Other government agencies are doing this well. And I know that no matter what, NASA, which is the trailblazer, I feel like, often in a lot of areas, they were the trailblazer in this, in convening this sort of ecosystem together to work differently together in the space sector. And no matter what happens, either today or in your future, as you continue developing your technology, just know that you've been a part of something great, this NASA iTech program, and we've had the privilege and honor to meet each of you and see your technology in its infancy stage. And that today, no matter who's selected at the very end as the winner, what you're doing can transform industries and change lives for good permanently. And I feel honored every single day that I get to do what I do and be a part of that. And so I want you guys to see a little bit about I want to talk a little bit about the program and see those results, because it started 5 years ago when NASA recruited me, August of 2016, it was just being built. And so I just would like to share with you a little bit about the program and what makes it different than what we've ever done before. And so we're not looking for technologies we've already invested in as an organization. We're looking for the things that are actually in the gaps. So when we have technologies that we don't have solutions for yet, we're looking for those technologies because we have plenty of programs that actually you can apply for that NASA will fund in a different way. But we want the things that we hadn't thought of as a solution. So we align the technologies that we see with NASA, and they have a commercial need as well. And that's really important because if that technology is going to move forward, you're going to need investment. And so we find things that are already being developed that have a commercial market, but also can be a potential solution for us. The other thing we do differently is we actually go out to the innovators. We go to pitch competitions, technology pitch competitions, to find those innovators and bring them in and tell them about what we're looking for. Applying, we've made the process very simple. It's a 5-page white paper. Who's ever heard of a government program having a submittal for your technology to be 5 pages? And we made it simple for a reason. We bring the right people in the room. We usually bring investors, entrepreneurs, as well as the technology experts that we have at NASA in the same place with the innovators. And we giving them all an opportunity to further dive into the technology, discuss it, see where it fits well, and investors often will advise them or other serial entrepreneurs. And then NASA kind of gets out of the way, right? The government just moves out of the way to let those things happen. Instead of prescribing the solution, what we do is we've decided to identify what the problem is and then ask the innovators of the world any recommendation for what a solution could be, because we don't assume that we have all the answers. Honestly, we don't. And so that has been helpful for us because sometimes the solutions we get in are things that we hadn't anticipated. We reduce IP concerns because when we bring the investors in, they invest in the technology and move it forward, where we would like to be able to, in the future, buy it off the shelf because it's a commercial product, like we do an iPad, and then modify it for our own environment, harsh environments. And so we come up with broad, basically focus areas so that if there's a technology in that area we're not familiar with, you may be able to apply to some of these, one of the areas. But the biggest thing that I've learned when we started this is I didn't have an X factor innovation. And what does that mean? It means that it's when somebody's applying for a government program for a solicitation for a solution, right? They sometimes think if it doesn't fit cleanly into quantum sensors, for example, then they're not sure it could fit in any of the other categories. And the first time I did it, I didn't have an X factor innovation category. We received lots of emails from people that said they had some amazing technologies they would have loved to apply, but because it didn't fit exactly in any one of those categories, they didn't apply. So we included the X factor innovation, and about 70% of the applicants that we get are solutions for technologies that sometimes fit in those other categories, but the entrepreneur didn't see their technology fitting in there. But when we looked at it and evaluated it, we did. And so it was a way in which we didn't sort of eliminate a large portion of people from applying. And so over the last 4 years, since we've rolled out the program, I told you in December of 2016, we met our first top 10 entrepreneurs. That number actually is, they've been able to leverage over $600 million of private investment dollars, not federal dollars. That's private investment dollars in about 4 years. In December, it would be 4 years since the first entrepreneurs stood on stage. And so 3.5 years, $600 million, those numbers don't lie. And that's really an impact for those technologies moving forward. And so what you're participating in today, or what you're seeing today, is this is one of the Ignite the Night events that we go out into cities, helping to identify entrepreneurs in those cities. we bring in, usually when we're in person and not virtual, but we usually bring in our center chief technologists, subject matter experts, and then we convene with investors or subject matter experts in those cities to work with the entrepreneurs evaluating the technology, and they compete, right? So we have usually 6 Ignite the Nights a year and then 2 forums. Well, 3 of those feed into one forum, 3 of them feed into the other. We also have an open application process as well. So you don't have to exactly be in one of those cities. You can still apply and be considered for one of the top 25. These are the states that we've had entrepreneurs from across the US, either an Ignite the Night. You can see if they're the ones that are in gray, they're the Ignite the Night presenters, or cycle finalists, or any of the cycle semifinalists have been from all the states that you see there. And these are a lot of the companies that have actually participated and been able to present their technologies to us. And so this is just a handful of the entrepreneurs that I was just going to give you just a snapshot view. The first one that you see, which is Active Surgical, that's Peter Kim. When I met him, he was the head surgeon for Children's National in Washington, D.C. And he was a specialized doctor and was able to do certain surgeries for the trachea for children. And so, but at some point in his life, he was called back from a vacation so that he could go and perform a surgery. And he realized he needed to come up with a better solution to maintain or retain the knowledge that he had, because here he was having to fly in from out of the country back into the United States to go perform the surgery. And that was at that moment, he was like, I need to be able to maybe develop a robotic system so that I could help other doctors, assist other doctors in performing the surgeries. So taking my knowledge and actually helping that robot, integrate it in with the robotic system. And so he's developed, so he left, so he participated in NASA iTech. I introduced him to one of the largest biomedical investment firms in our country that on a handshake deal, he received like $5 million. And then after that, he actually left the hospital, which I'm not sure. I still have mixed feelings about. Maybe I did a bad thing or not, but he's actually, that company that he left to go run took the technology that you saw in the very beginning of the video, the autonomous robotic capabilities, and they just received another a $30 million award just recently. It was in the news within the last month. So, and they plan on actually having the first launching their product in 2021, which is pretty exciting because our program's only 4 years old. He was probably in our maybe our second or third cycle. So it's moved rather quickly, but it'll be a capability that NASA would be able to use if we colonize the moon or Mars, having autonomous robotic surgical capabilities to assist astronauts would be something that could be useful for the agencies. And so these are just our future events that we currently have planned, but you can go to our website to see that. And then I am going to allow the judges to introduce themselves. We have a great panel of judges, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Max Brickman. I'm from Heartland Ventures.
Hey, I'm John Carr. I'm the Deputy Center Chief Technologist at the Marshall Space Flight Center down in Huntsville, Alabama.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Hughes. I'm the Center Chief Technologist from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, home for the James Webb Space Telescope and OSIRIS-REx. It's about to take the first sample from an asteroid and return it to Earth.
Thanks, Peter. Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Crane. I'm the interim dean of Wright State University's regional campus, the Lake Campus in Salina, Ohio. I also am the president and CEO of Wright State's first successful startup company, Forensic Bioinformatics, and that company is built around intellectual property for which I'm a co-inventor. And then I'm also have the pleasure of serving as the Ohio Department of Higher Education's Entrepreneur in Residence.
Thank you, Dan. Aubrey?
Hi, everyone. My name is Aubrey Paris. I'm a Science and Technology Policy Advisor at the U.S. Department of State.
Thanks so much, Aubrey. Harry? Okay, we can't hear you. We'll come back to you. Marin.
As a Science and Technology Advisor to the Secretary.
Thank you, Marin. Ramona.
Hi, Ramona Pelletier-Travis. I'm the Center Chief Technologist at the Stennis Space Center, NASA's home to the nation's largest rocket engine test complex. Nice to be here today.
Thank you so much, Ramona. Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew Wolf. I'm the CEO and founder of SkipList. We do emerging technology for the Fortune 500 and state and federal governments as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Zupancic, and I'm a scientist and entrepreneur, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Infinix Bio in Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you for all of you volunteering your time to be judges for this event. And we're about to kick off the first presentation.
Ruthus for Space is a nuclear reactor core concept aimed to bring sustained energy to remote locations in harsh environments, such as advanced military bases, disaster recovery areas, the moon, where it can be dark for weeks on end. Shipping energy to these areas would cost thousands of dollars per gallon of fuel. Ruthus for Space can do so for just a few dollars per gallon. The market estimate for our technology is of the order of several billion dollars. My name is Carol Smits. I'm a professor at the Ohio State University, Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. My team is composed of 9 professors, including myself, 6 from OSU in Columbus, the remainder from Virginia Tech, Jacksonville University, and University of Maryland College Park. Between us, we accumulate a total of 200-person year of research experience and represent the diverse backgrounds which are needed to support the development of Ruthus for Space. The team's expertise includes nuclear engineering, materials, aerospace, mechanical, civil engineering, computer science, and policy development. Our current concept generates massive power of the order of 3 to 4 megawatt thermal. The reactor is designed as walk-away safe and can function for multiple years without refueling. It can be used for heat or electricity production. It can be used for terrestrial and aerospace applications. The advantages of our technology over competing technologies is that it is safer, can be made autonomous, can even use nuclear waste, is scalable from the watt to the megawatt, and is proliferation resistant. You should see behind me simulations of our current concept. At the top, rotating fuel drums for uniform use of fuel. At the bottom, movable neutron sources for power control. The simulation is much faster than the actual concept. An investment of $500,000 of university and government funds has allowed us to demonstrate the feasibility of our concept through simulation. An invention disclosure was submitted on Ruthus, ancestor to Ruthus for Space. An investment of $3 million will be required to complete the first prototype. We then plan to spin off as a company and apply for licensing. Another $30 million of investment is required to develop the capability for manufacturing multiple modules of Ruthus for Space. Thank you for your attention. Please don't hesitate to contact us with your questions.
My company is Microgravity Research Systems, a startup with a goal of developing products to answer questions about the effects of spaceflight on the human body and within chemical systems. Our aim is to become a dedicated research capability directed at solving major biomedical challenges associated with microgravity. We are a team which includes an engineer, a physiologist, microbiologist, and an IP lawyer who also has a PhD in chemistry. We know that institutions who invest in space travel and research need a scalable, adaptable, and cost-effective way to model microgravity on Earth in order to understand and predict biological and chemical changes that occur in microgravity. The status quo of sending humans into space and seeing what happens is a risky scientific approach. The microgravity bioreactor technology we are developing as a product and a service will be able to effectively mimic microgravity in miniaturized organ systems and engineered or chemical systems. This benchtop-sized system can be housed in standard laboratory incubators and is designed to contain multiple isolated reaction vessels, low-cost consumables, which allow for a variety of testing and scientific replicates in one unit. Think of it as these Lego blocks, each unit housing 12 replicates that can then be modularly stacked and moved into an incubator, ionization chamber, or other relevant environment. The microgravity bioreactor technology we have will have relevant commercial benefit to academic, pharmaceutical, government, and private sector industries. The government is concerned with readiness, novel material development, and production of personnel and national security. Academic research focuses on publishing quality research and obtaining funding to answer questions about the impact of spaceflight on humans and materials. Pharmaceutical industries have been drawn to space recently as a novel synthesis environment, which may require production-scale technology to generate a revenue stream. The commercial spaceflight industries that are involved in space tourism, satellite and payload delivery may be concerned with the safety and liability of their passengers. Altogether, these make up million and billion-dollar markets. Having an addressable market in each of these sectors makes it evident that this technology can become integrated into the focus of multiple technical fields. Microgravity research systems have developed technology with integrated design features that will answer the unique problems of each industry. In addition, the microgravity reaction chambers are a substantial improvement on existing laboratory simulated microgravity technologies such as clinostats, rotating wall vessels, and random positioning machines, which can be bulky, limited in their application, and ability to produce scientific replicates. A provisional patent has recently been filed, and a miniaturized scale model has been developed for the bioreactor optimized for cells and bacteria. Further IP is in development for the model designed for liquid handling and chemical reactions. I am seeking funding to develop functional prototypes that I can get in the hands of beta testers I have identified through customer surveys and within my network. With the goal of completing prototypes to scale up manufacturing, we are pursuing SBIR funding through NSF, who has recently invited us to submit a full Phase 1 proposal. We are seeking funding through venture groups and grants. With at least $250,000, we can get a prototype into the hands of investigators within a year, so we can help provide mankind the tools we need to travel to the moon and beyond.
Next, we have BTech.
Space exploration is grappling with the biggest limitation of spaceflight, our own bodies. We have sent people to space for decades, but we're only beginning to learn what that means for the human body. The human body is designed to thrive on the surface of the Earth and not the weightlessness of space. The microgravity of space causes cells to react like wounds, resulting in what is known as space tissue loss. The breakdown of tissue and function presents serious challenges to the health of humans in space. Crew members may experience injury or difficulty in initiating the wound healing process. Astronauts need the ability to heal themselves quickly and reliably in the challenging environment of space. Beyond space, globally advanced wound care is an enormous market valued at over $11 billion, with dressings representing half of this market size. There are many competitors focused on stem cells, hydrogels, scaffolds, and nanotextile wearables. But our approach is different. We focus on healing at the dermis level and healing tissue from the inside out. Our approach is more affordable and user-friendly for crews in space and on Earth. Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Sloan, CEO and founder of BTech and inventor of the Halcyon Smart Patch, and I am a serial entrepreneur. Our team is located in Cleveland, Ohio, and we have over 10 years of combined experience in wound care, photochemical research, and biomedical engineering. Together, we have worked with NASA, Northeast Ohio Medical University, Rubik's LS, and others. BTech BTech has developed the Halcyon Smart Patch, a unique optic nanomatrix device that delivers and sustains far infrared wavelengths beneath the surface of the skin to promote tissue healing by stimulating blood flow. We've demonstrated great success in initiating early mechanisms of tissue repair. The Halcyon Smart Patch works by reflecting the therapeutic wavelengths of far infrared frequencies to repair wounds by encouraging stimulation of optimal blood flow and recruitment of beneficial cells. Other products heal wounds at the surface level, while our product heals from the inside out, strengthening damaged tissue. The patch is applied to any surface of the skin for whole body healing. The device is non-invasive, non-toxic, and activated by body temperature. We have a provisional patent and preclinical trials set for the summer of 2021. For the space industry, we can optimize blood flow to promote tissue repair to prevent space tissue loss. On Earth, we can help diabetics prevent non-healing wounds leading to amputations by healing and strengthening damaged tissue. Our patch is an inexpensive, user-friendly alternative for treating non-healing wounds. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Regulus Technologies.
Good morning. If I told you that I found gold in your backyard, would you go looking for a shovel? Hi, I'm Marlon Linger. My company, Regulus Technologies, is partnering with university engineers to develop autonomous drone aircraft and surface vehicles carrying chemical analytical instruments to determine the content of mineral ores for mining, soil samples, environmental contaminants, drugs, pesticides, nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons, and other materials. Our vehicles will conduct these analyses in the field using GPS-guided autopilots on vertical takeoff and landing aircraft or surface vehicles along predetermined paths, which are programmed into the autopilot, eliminating the need to send human operators into the field into potentially hazardous conditions and at lower cost. The craft will stop at predetermined locations to take chemical measurements and record the location of each analysis. These data will be fed wirelessly to a ground control station, or a map will be constructed to indicate the amount of each analyte in the region analyzed. These craft will also contain video equipment to help the ground station operator to position the analytical instruments on suitable targets at each waypoint. Here's a photo of miners back in the 1840s in California. You can imagine trying to cover the Klondike mine area in Alaska. You might want something that could cover a lot more area if you were mining there for gold. Or if you were a hazmat team member, you might want a robot to go into the field and collect whatever samples you need to collect rather than having to go there yourself, right? Nowadays, we have instruments such as this portable X-ray fluorescence detector, which if you simply aim it at a target, will give you a complete elemental analysis readout. We propose to put these types of instruments on tracked surface vehicles or on drones, short-range drones such as this one, or larger fixed-wing drones such as this one. And they would have an autopilot on board, which would produce a map, okay, of where each of these samples was taken, so that you have a complete readout of where all these minerals were located. These types of craft have previously been used, or these types of instruments have previously been used on Viking Mars landers, and also on Apollo missions to the moon. This would be a drone similar to this one. On someplace like the moon, we replace propellers with rockets, and we might come up with a surface vehicle such as this one. Thank you very much.
Next is Aeiou Scientific.
I'm Gary Wakeford, CEO of Aeiou Scientific, and we are in the business of advancing diagnostic innovation for bone health. There's a huge problem in the U.S. right now in that there are over 2 million fragility fractures of bone every year, and this is the direct result of the presence of osteoporosis or its precursor, osteopenia. This is costing the U.S. healthcare system $19 billion a year. This is particularly a huge problem in our female population. From the age 50 on, 1 in 2 women, or a full 50%, will experience a fragility fracture. NASA has also determined that astronauts who spend extended time in space of greater than 30 days on a mission also are showing indications of loss in bone mineral density. This has the potential of making them susceptible to early onset osteoporosis later in life. Current technology cannot accurately identify who is at potential risk of fracture. The current solution is called DEXA, and it measures bone mineral density, but all of the science overwhelmingly demonstrates that bone mineral density is not an accurate predictor of fracture. In just one of many studies I can share with you, we looked at 200,000 fractures. 96% of the patients identified by bone mineral density as having osteoporosis did not fracture, and yet 80% of the fractures occurred in people who did not meet the clinical definition of osteoporosis. This tells us that we're measuring the wrong parameters. The solution comes out of Ohio University in Athens, and it's called cortical bone mechanics testing. Cortical bone mechanics testing very accurately measures cortical bone stiffness. In fact, we do so with an R-squared of 0.999. We also have been demonstrated that there is a very strong correlation between cortical bone stiffness and cortical bone strength. We are confident that we can use these two parameters to accurately identify people at risk. Now, there's a huge market opportunity in addition to helping our astronauts. We're in the process of raising $1 million in seed funding to start initially selling into the research use only market. We will use the data gathered there to support our initial FDA application, which will open us up to the $650 million US clinical market, and we will use that data to secure our CE mark to open us up to the $1.2 billion market globally. Cortical bone stiffness also has a much higher level of sensitivity, so we can provide NASA with the ability to more accurately measure an astronaut status before they leave on a mission and more accurately measure their status upon return to Earth. So please, as we move forward, help us help you.
Next up, McE Nexus.
In situ resource utilization is the holy grail of the space industry. There is no more costly supply chain than the tens of thousands of dollars that's required to launch even a single kilogram of material into space. Privatization of the space industry has helped to lower that cost, but in order to create a step change in our ability to explore and colonize space beyond near-Earth orbit, we have to learn to build and create materials from the raw matter we find on lunar, planetary, and asteroid systems. I'm Chris Taylor, an engineering physics PhD, and I'm the founder of McE Nexus. MCE stands for Materials, Chemicals, and Energy, and our team of chemists, physicists, and engineers understands that in order to sustainably manufacture resources in space, we need to build space-based industrial parks that co-create materials, chemicals, and energy symbiotically. Consider the kinds of materials that will be needed to sustain a colony on the Moon or Mars. In addition to providing food, water, and oxygen for life support, the infrastructure itself will have needs to grow over time and be replenished, repaired, and maintained. For transportation, vehicles will be needed, requiring high energy density fuels. Systems will need to be sealed and moving parts lubricated, requiring polymers and greases. Metallic parts will need to be repaired or replaced. Technologies like 3D printing or metamorphic manufacturing will enable net shape part production, but the problem of obtaining the raw materials has yet to be solved. At McE Nexus, we started out by taking a top-down view of those needs, and we realized that the systems that will create oxygen and water for life support, as well as hydrogen and methane for fuels, should best operate within an industrial park-like environment. To efficiently exchange byproducts and waste streams, we designed a flow sheet for cogeneration of materials, fuels, and precious metals from the ores expected to be found on the Moon and Mars, based on our current geological maps. One of the central technologies we are focusing on is an electrolyzer, in which minerals are dissolved within a molten salt bath and the electrochemistry tuned to extract materials of interest, such as molecular oxygen and chlorine at the anodes and hydrogen, iron, aluminum, or silicon at the cathodes. Based on our flow sheets, we estimate that a megawatt-sized power source could be used to generate tonnage quantities of these materials per day, which is effectively millions of dollars saved on a daily basis, just by cutting out the supply chain. From the Earth side, those innovations will also be attractive because they will by necessity be zero carbon and non-water intensive. There are no coal seams or oil and gas reservoirs in space, no fresh running water, so the industrial symbioses we are working on for the space economy will help with the zero carbon energy transition here on Earth. Just consider how carbon intensive the steelmaking industry is, for example. McE Nexus is an early stage startup looking to get connected to partners in the space industry to better understand current and medium-term needs and opportunities where we can participate. Our mission is to utilize our expertise in chemistry, physics, and engineering to build a circular economy for the co-production of materials, chemicals, and energy in space.
Ohio Drone is up next.
What would you do to get an hour and a half of your commute back every day? Maybe you'd enjoy some time with the kids. Maybe you'd enjoy the wonderful sights of nature. And you could learn to play basketball. Hi, I'm Rob Sharma. Welcome to Ohio Drone. For many in the industry, we've been talking about personal air vehicles or drone taxis for around 70 years. But 70 years ago, they also didn't have cell phones, they hadn't landed on the moon, and they also don't have giant aluminum drones sitting in their office. I'm here today to talk to you about the infrastructure that's going to be required to make these become personal air vehicles, so you can take that quick trip downtown to go see a Reds game. But for you drone taxi enthusiasts, luckily the U.S. Air Force Orbs program, as well as the state of Ohio's Ohio Department of Transportation's Fly Ohio initiative, is here to help address those infrastructure needs, and they've asked commercial entities to help. The FAA has told us to prepare for hundreds of thousands of aircraft, with the challenge of that infrastructure need being the electricity to power those aircraft. Looking at the industrial grid behind us, you can imagine it can cost millions of dollars per mile to run the type of lines to be able to get that electricity from the generation plants to where those drones are stored and maintained. Welcome to Coleraine, Ohio. Behind me, this landfill is one of the largest methane recovery sites here in the United States. Hundreds of acres of potential fuel source. Not only is this used today to power our homes, but our proposal is we also use this to power our drones of the future. Unlike conventional aircraft, which refill like your car, drones of the future are planned to be electric, which requires them to have the ability to store large amounts of drones at a location to charge over time, just the same way you charge your phone at night. These hundreds of acres provide plenty of opportunity for individuals to land safely their personal air vehicle without the stress of an urban environment. One of the cheapest, one of the most eco-friendly locations to potentially put drones, but also one of the safest. Located only 15 minutes from our downtown Cincinnati area. And we're here to ask for state and commercial support to launch a pilot program right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. So let me ask you, what do you think you'll do with your hour and a half of extra time every day? Thank you for your consideration.
And finally, the University of Toledo.
Cold plasma is a critical technology in many life-saving applications like cancer treatment, wound healing, and food and water decontamination. However, power efficiency of plasma units is typically suboptimal, resulting in heavy, bulky, and energy-hungry units. Hi, my name is Abbas Semnani. I'm an assistant professor of electrical engineering at the University of Toledo, working with my colleagues and students to make plasma devices with very high efficiency of 95% or even more. If that happens, less power will be required for plasma generation, so we can have plasma devices much more compact, lighter, and less expensive. And they can be supplied with readily available sources like batteries or even solar cells. Compared to the current devices that have power consumption in the range of a few watts to tens of watts, we want to make it happen with milliwatts of power. If that happens, for example, it can be used at home for disinfection applications or even for wound healing. The main principle of our technology is to use very high quality factor microwave resonators that have their electromagnetic energy concentrated over a small area so that even with low levels of input power, we can ignite and sustain stable microwave plasma there. Considering the space, we know that astronauts don't have a pharmacy up there, so they can use such a handheld device for their disinfection applications. Also, in a larger and extended scale, the same concept can be used for realization of very high efficiency plasma thrusters, which can be used for reorbiting of small satellites. This prototype works at 2.45 gigahertz based on the same technology and generates microplasma jets coming out from here with milliwatts of power, primarily for cancer treatment. But the same technology can be used extended over lower frequency range or by using an array of such plasma devices to make the plasma area even larger. Considering its wide range of applications, we have been working hard to make plasma devices with lowest possible power consumption, and we appreciate your support to make this idea to turn it to a reality. Thank you.
I just want to thank the entrepreneurs for working so hard in a very short period of time. Your presentations, your videos, you guys did a great job. And now we're going to go into the phase where the judges are going to begin asking questions. Robin, I wanted to make sure we could just test Harry's mic real quick because I think he's the first one on the list to go.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. We can hear you.
Thank you. All right, so my first question is for Ohio State. Can you tell us something about the lifetime, what you expected lifetime of your reactor and how you're doing the cooling?
Yes. So we calculated it to be about 5 years. And what was the second part of the question?
How are you doing the cooling?
We're going to use helium, at least for aerospace applications. On Earth, we also are thinking about doing cooling using helium.
Okay, thank you. Aeiou Scientific. Can you tell us something about, is the test painless?
Yes, the test is completely painless. It uses vibration analysis. It is radiation free. It takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to perform a test, completely painless for both the patient and the operator.
And you've done studies to show that it works right now, clinical trials?
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, the next question I had was University of Toledo. Have you shown the effectiveness of milliwatt plasmas for sterilization and how it compares with other sterilization techniques, such as a small UVC lamp?
We are still working on the device. So we made the device. We are now testing that to generate plasma. So we are checking for different covers, different gases, different flow rates. But we have not started testing of sterilization yet, which is the next step for us.
Okay. Aeiou Scientific again. What stage are you in clinical trials?
We are pre-market stage. Our first approach is to sell this to research universities and bone labs doing bone mineral research. We do not need FDA approval to sell it as a research use only technology. I have a proposal from the bone lab at Ohio State University where they will do a test of 20 ulnas, cadaveric ulnas, to demonstrate the transferability and the difference between bone stiffness and bone strength. And they'll also compare that with quasi-static mechanical testing, which is destructive testing. So if we can show we are as accurate or more accurate than quasi-mechanical static testing, this will make us really attractive to the bone research market and also set us up for our FDA application.
So can you say something about the revenue you expect for that? Is that enough to sustain a business?
It's enough to keep us going and supplement our cash flow while we prepare for FDA approval. We have targeted selling our first initial 4 devices to that market in 2021, followed by an additional 10 devices in 2022, which we think is very conservative. And that level of sales alone would get us to a break even.
My last question is for BTech. Have you done clinical trials to demonstrate this, your technology, the far infrared?
No, we are on the brink of doing the preclinical trials. We are in the process now of doing a full functional prototype to make sure that we have optimized the far infrared wavelengths. We're anticipating doing the preclinical trials next summer.
So you said you're using the body heat, so I assume you have some sort of nanostructure that's generating the far infrared?
That's correct.
And is it correct that it is not temperature, that it is the radiation that's causing the healing?
That's correct. It is the temperature of the radiation, rather.
I thought there was an NIH paper that said it was not the temperature, it was the radiation.
It's the radiation that's causing the healing.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
That's all I got.
My first question is for OSU Ruthus for space. I'm wondering what the outcome you're going to get from the initial $3 million investment that you're seeking.
Yeah, it would be to finalize the simulation. So far we've concentrated our efforts on the neutronics portion. So this would be to develop the simulation for the secondary side and also explore the transportation issues related to, launching it and dropping it onto the moon, say. So all the simulations associated to that, instrumentation control, safety assessment for any probable onsets, and risk assessment. So the typical safety analysis we would do for a reactor core design such as this.
Okay, thank you. For BTech, Halcyon, what do you see as the largest risk for this technology and how are you going to address it?
Sorry, can you?
I can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
I'm sorry, I'm not controlling the. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Can you please repeat the question?
What do you see that the largest risk is for your technology to take it to market? How are you going to address that?
Right now, there's no real apparent risk. The products that we use to construct the patch are all biodegradable. They're all biocompatible, so there's no issues of toxicity. We've looked at that on 3 levels to make sure. We've done some preliminary testing in mice as part of our scale-up looking ability, and we didn't see any kind of issues right now with any kind of problems for the preclinical trials or for going to market.
Great, thank you. And final question for AEIOU. Do you anticipate any problems in trying to have this device operate in space in the microgravity?
This device is not designed to operate in space. We believe that we can provide you with much more accurate information on the status of the astronauts prior to their mission and much more accurate information and sensitivity on their status on their return to Earth. As it exists right now, I do not believe it's something that would be on the trip.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Peter. Ramona?
Hi. Already some of my questions have been asked, so that's good. Let me ask some others. BTech, what are the power usage needs for your technology?
I'm not quite sure if I understand the question about power usage. Is it in terms of embedding the FIRs?
The amount of power you would need to run this. Is this just simple battery or would you need something else?
There's no battery or anything. It's all a structural product, and it's composed of 3 layers that are put together and fused together, and we actually embed the FIRs into our proprietary nanomatrix.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask Aeiou Drone. You mentioned that you would like support from the state or investors. In what area are you wanting support? Is it for the personal air vehicle, support for the infrastructure system at the landfills that you'll develop, or both? Is this going to be drone agnostic, your infrastructure?
Yes, the infrastructure is drone agnostic. So our primary focus is on the ground infrastructure, and we're targeting the Coleraine area or the northern Cincinnati area due to its relative location to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and the major companies which are currently working on the personal air vehicle technology.
Okay, thank you. University of Toledo. Who are some of your primary competitors at this time that may endanger your progress?
I'm not exactly sure what's your question. Are you about comparing with the previous things in this area?
Right, the technologies that attempt to do something similar to what you're wanting to do now with the wound healing, et cetera. Who are those that you would need to keep in mind as investors want to support your further development?
Our main target here is efficiency, making very high efficiency plasma. And those applications of, for example, decontamination or wound healing are just some example applications that we have started with. But just imagine that if we can make very high efficiency plasma and make exactly the same plasma density, but with much lower power, then it can be used in many other applications nowadays that they are using plasma, like for microelectronics or plasma propulsion or many other things. But the main thing here is how we can make a very high efficiency plasma. And this is the specific scientific target that we have. And the others are just examples.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ramona. John, you're up next.
All right. Hey, all. First question's for Ohio State. Could you tell me what fuel you're using? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can use low enrichment or high enrichment fuel. We're planning to use triso particles, and our moderator will be a graphite base. Will be a graphite matrix.
Great. And one more question for you. Have you traded or done a state-of-the-art comparison against kilopower? Do you have any pros and cons there that you might like to point out?
Yes, so our reactor is much higher power. Our power density is much higher. So kilopower is between 1 and 10 kilowatt. So let's say that maybe, so our reactor is 3 to 4 megawatt thermal and about 250 kilowatt electric. So we target a totally different amount of energy.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My next question is for BTech. I was wondering if you could quantify the improvement you expect over the surface level dressings. Do you have any estimate or KPPs from your early study that you're targeting?
We don't have any estimates that I can share at this point in time. But I think that the thing that we can basically improve upon regular dressings is that we go into the dermis level. We're able to sustain the FIRs at that level in order to promote optimal healing. A lot of the other products don't do that. It sits there for a few hours, maximum 88. And our product is able to keep the FIRs under the surface of the skin for a sustained period of days in order to get, again, the maximum optimal healing.
Okay, so do you expect maybe during the clinical trials is when you'll first start to quantify what that improvement is over certain dressings?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you. Aeiou, a similar question to you. I was wondering if you had estimates for performance on diagnosis over state of the art. I heard you mention that 80% of fractures were non-diagnosed. Do you have any estimates on the level you might be at? I think you're muted, Gary.
We don't have estimates as of right now because that's the whole solution we're trying to answer. Right now, we've been able to demonstrate a very, very high accuracy in measuring cortical bone stiffness of the ulna. The R-squared was 0.999. We've also been able to demonstrate that same level of accuracy in cortical bone strength. So there's a very high correlation between bone strength and bone stiffness. We believe we can use this information to refine it to be able to be in a position to much better identify who's at risk of fracture. But that's the testing we still need to do, is to make the data we generate right now and correlate it to who's at risk, because nothing on the market is currently doing that with any level of accuracy.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Maren, you're up next.
Excellent presentations all around. My first question is for McE Nexus. Really appreciate the applications for the industrial parks. I was curious what sorts of 4D applications you either have incorporated or hope to incorporate into these ecosystems.
Can you ask the question again? What kind of 4D applications? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
You had mentioned that you have incorporated 3D and 4D technologies into the industrial parks, or at least the game plan. Do you have any specifics on the 4D?
Oh, no, we do not at this time. What we're looking at this point is to make sure the technologies we're developing are aligned with mission interests. And we feel that what we're proposing is a kind of a more disruptive technology. It's going to enable people to think differently about space missions. And what we want to do is see how what we're proposing aligns with the current plans for ISRU with NASA and other space partners. So we're kind of developed some technology. We think developing manufacturing capability in space is going to be potentially disruptive. But we need to build more of those connections to make sure we're aligned with the kind of timelines and interests of the current administration, I guess.
Okay, and then second question also, have you experimented in specific areas here terrestrially?
We have been working on different technologies for using the kind of electrolyzers for things like nuclear waste separation, as well as for generating the fuels using different catalysts that you can add into the molten salt and create technologies with fluoride or chloride salts.
Great, thank you. And my second question is for Regulus. What challenges have you experienced with the autonomous nature of your mining exploration so far?
Just getting the money to buy the equipment? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And is that from the investor side in particular, or is it just...
Up to now, we've been just pitching grant competitions like Army and Air Force, that sort of thing. We're primarily using off-the-shelf equipment, which we would simply integrate into a wireless environment. Nobody's doing this kind of thing right now, and it seems to be fairly straightforward. We just have to raise the money to buy the equipment to build a system to test it out. We have the engineers to design it. A lot of that equipment's also off the shelf, so it's not.
I got it. And so prototype-wise, where have you tested so far that's been the most difficult terrain to penetrate?
We've tested the instruments themselves in the laboratory, and we've flown the aircraft. We haven't had an instrument itself to integrate into an aircraft.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, thank you very much. And that's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marin. Next, Aubrey.
So my first question is for BTech. I'm thinking about the use of your device, your technology, in sort of a humanitarian aid sort of sense. And so I'm wondering if you can tell us anything about how your device would perform in different conditions, say heat versus high humidity, et cetera.
The device will work in any climate because it's not climate dependent. So for instance, if you were in the sub-Sahara desert, it doesn't make a difference, moisture, heat. It's only activated by the ambient body temperature. So once you put it onto the body, then the body's temperature is what controls the turn on mechanism of it. And once it's released into the body, which is immediately beneath the surface of the skin, then it stays there. So it's not dependent upon any kind of environment. That's why it's good for space. And that's why it's good for application here on Earth.
Thank you. For Aeiou drone, I'm also thinking about using your idea beyond the confines of Ohio and perhaps the landfill that you've identified. And I'm wondering that, I could envision, these drones being useful in various other places. I'm wondering if there are opportunities for using other unique sources of electricity to be able to power these in other parts of the world or out, say, in space.
Yes, this same approach is also used for Bitcoin mining currently with burn-off gas that you would have at oil refineries. So the general concept of any place where you have these dirtier, not refined gases in which you can put them through a turbine, you are able to generate the type of electricity that'll work with drones for recharging drone batteries.
Great. Very helpful. Thank you. For microgravity research systems, I believe I caught you mention the term consumables for your reaction vessels. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about where in your product these consumables exist.
Sure. Well, some of my background is in the organ-on-a-chip systems and microfluidic systems. This will not be a microfluidic system, but you can think of it in a similar way as each reaction is in an isolated reaction vessel. And so each one of those are a disposable, low-cost consumable. So they will be one-time use. You will put your cells or bacteria or whatever chemical reaction you're interested in into this vessel. That will then be placed with up to 12 replicates per unit. And then that will be your system, which can then be modularly stacked with another one that has 12 replicates of these individual systems.
And I do have one quick follow-up question on that. How do the consumables fit into your business model? Are the reaction vessels standard, or will they be something that you would be producing explicitly for your system?
They would be produced explicitly for the system. Yeah, that's part of the business model. You can provide a package deal of a 1 unit plus X number of consumables, and then the customer will continually purchase them from the company.
Great, thank you. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aubrey. Next up, Tom.
Okay, I have a question for microgravity research systems. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, as I understand it, the unique properties of cells grown in microgravity goes back a ways, and these things like flew on the space shuttle, some of the early cell biology experiments. How is the technology that you have that different from some of the early reactors that were built after it was discovered that cells have unique, interesting properties when they're in microgravity? How is your system different?
It is different and unique because it can house a variety of cell types and organ systems. The NASA bioreactor that Sharon Lickerson has worked on, I've actually met her a couple times, and we've chatted about these units. It houses suspension cells only that allows the free fall microgravity condition in cell culture, but mine is designed differently so that it is working with the entire body, which can then be mimicking an organ system in microgravity. And these units can also be part of a payload that could go up into space, and an Earth model could then mimic the same vessels that would be aboard a space station or the International Space Station.
Okay, do you think this would be useful with pluripotent stem cells? I've understood that this kind of technology enables you to basically regrow cells that you can't very easily grow under standard tissue culture using existing old-fashioned lab. Can you use this for regenerative medicine on Earth?
Absolutely. I would think that it could for stem cells if they need a feeder layer or other type of complex cell culture environment. This system should be able to house them.
Okay, and then what about with the chemical and enzymatic reactions? What are some examples? This is a new one for me. What are some examples of the chemical and enzymatic reactions that behave differently in microgravity, and how is that useful?
I'm interested particularly in synthetic biology applications, but we also know that chemical reactions and even crystal formation is different in a microgravity environment. So when looking to synthesize novel materials and chemicals, these units can be used to mimic how those reactions would occur in microgravity, whether the rate would be different or the type of structures that form under those conditions could be modeled.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I had questions for BTech, but they basically mostly got answered. So let me ask Aeiou Scientific about the instrument itself. Is this something that you're going to manufacture then and sell? Is the product the combination of instrument and software, or is the instrument already exist and you are providing the software?
It is a combination of an instrument and software, and we will be manufacturing this in-house by ourselves.
Okay, so you're going to manufacture and distribute the instrument. Is this something, I'm interested in how user-friendly it's going to be. Is this something that would be used in a specialized lab, or could you sell this to any orthopedic doctor who'd have that at their own facility, or it would have to be in a hospital? People need to be highly trained to use it, or you just watch a video and then you play and then you know how to use it?
No, unlike DEXA, which is the current standard of care, DEXA requires a certification to be able to use the technology. Ours does not. We're actually, in September, we're starting a usability study with Ohio Ortho Neuro in New Albany, Ohio, down there by Columbus, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're using their interns to do a short study just to see how quickly people can be trained and how quickly they can get up to speed and provide accurate information. All of our indications are it is not a difficult thing to learn, but we're doing some outside testing to prove that so that people can hear that other from us.
So you would use it in a doctor's office or at a hospital?
Eventually, initially, it'll be a doctor's office and freestanding clinics. You know, you see a lot of imaging centers and things like that. That's where you'll find most of the DEXAs. Eventually, there's the potential we could build a smaller, more portable unit that could be used in a doctor's office, but that will not be part of the initial launch.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Next, Dan Crane.
Thanks. Boy, again, great presentations from everyone here today. Let me start with a question for the group from Ohio State. Current regulatory regimes are intended to apply to conventional nuclear power plants, and I'm wondering how you think the licensing process might need to be adapted for a power source like the one that you're describing. And then maybe more specifically, are there things that could be done at the state level to help with that, those licensing requirements?
Yeah, I think we would need help at the state level. Actually, there are a few initiatives at the state level that are trying to advance, are trying to help advance reactors. And probably I don't know if you're familiar with that. We've actually testified to support those initiatives as representatives of the nuclear engineering programs in Ohio. So the state is trying to develop this idea that we could possibly delegate the decision making on licensing to the state level with a much easier process. In relation with US NRC and DOE. So given also the fact that the reactor is, although it is 3 to 4 megawatt, it's not like a 400 or 500 megawatt reactor. So we fit in a different category where maybe there can be ways of making things easier for the licensing. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you have. What's your sense of how difficult a process that will be? Again, it sounds like you need to have state law changed. Is that fair to say?
Well, actually, there are bills being introduced right now, and I can't remember the number of the bill. There was a House resolution which was introduced last year, and then right now they're considering a bill to define or to define a nuclear regulatory authority in Ohio, which would help with the licensing and the experimentation with advanced reactors. And the bill was in discussion in the Water and Energy, I can't remember, Water and Energy Committee, but I think they went off session and they're agreeing to rediscuss it when they restart in the fall. So I think the pathway is already there to bring us to this. and
Can I,
this was not a 30-second answer. So there have.
can I interject something here?
And I'm sorry, we're at time.
Okay.
We're actually running over. So Dan, thank you so much. I need to move to Max, please, for your questions.
Great. Thanks. So my first question is for BTech. Regarding the clinical trials that you have coming up, are they designed in a way that would allow for it to be a consumer product, or does it need to be administered by somebody else?
That's an excellent question. Yes, it's designed to be for a consumer product.
Okay. And as you look at the current technology that's going into it, from a cost standpoint, if you're looking at this being a consumer product for, I imagine, minor injuries where you wouldn't be treated at a hospital, what's the current state of the tech that goes into it in terms of what the cost would be?
We have some preliminary projected costs, but I don't want to share those right now because we don't know what the final cost is going to be. We have done a market scale-up analysis, so we know what we can roll out at 30 to 40% of scalability. But right now we are trying to target it so that it is affordable for people to utilize. We know, for instance, we can roll out at 30 to 40% at 600,000 units. And roughly it's costing about $10 to $20 per unit to put out. But again, that would have to be finalized in analysis after we do the clinical trials.
Okay, thank you. My next question's for microgravity research systems. Could you speak at all to the market size for something like this? I imagine it's the people buying it it's going to be research facilities. How many research facilities are there, in the U.S. that are doing this type of work? How many would they need? That type of thing.
I did do a market assessment. I know it was briefly in my presentation, but my first market would be academic, mainly because they have the flexibility to kind of work with some of these beta test designs and work out the kinks. But I think some of the larger customers, such as the pharmaceutical and government, those could definitely be in the $1 billion range if they are going to implement this for synthetic biology and pharmaceutical products. But yes, the first I guess iteration to the market will be through academic labs, which will be more in the $1 million market range.
Great. And my last question's for
We're out of time,
Aeiou.
Max.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Our last judge, Andrew Wolf.
Yep. I have questions, and I'm going to go pretty quickly. OSU, you mentioned acquisition of fuel. I'm sure there's regulations around that. How are you going to acquire fuel for your initial units?
So we're not at that point yet because at this point we're really talking about simulation. So I haven't thought that far. Maybe one of my team members can talk about this.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
Actually, the fuel, we can use any low enriched fuel that is available and for commercial use. This reactor is very flexible, and that's why we can use it.
Okay. And then you have $30 million for your go-to-market. How many are you able to build for $30 million? And then to accelerate this, there's a public perception around this type of energy, and you're going to launch it into the sky, and people are going to be very excited about it. Is any of that 30 million going to be used for marketing to fight public perception, or how do you plan to do that?
So that's so I think the public perception has changed a lot because while a few years ago, maybe 20 years ago, the public perception was actually very, very negative. We're no longer in that state, and if you look at even the green movements and the way they actually relate to nuclear energy these days is totally different. they will actually claim that nuclear energy is the safest source of energy. So I think that we don't really have to fight that fight anymore. At least that's my perception. So what was the other part of the question was?
How many can you build for 30 million the test units?
So I think Ali, I'm going to let you answer.
I don't know. I don't know. It's
okay.
It's actually one of the things we want to get this 3 million to start to optimize the design, and this design actually highly flexible and very scalable. So we are looking at potentially having smaller module and so you can generate distributed power even on say Mars or Moon.
Yeah, so one of the things I didn't discuss when I was asked what is specific to this reactor is that it is a subcritical reactor, which means that in that sense, it is much safer than the typical reactors we use currently for power because every reaction generates less than 1 neutron. So in that sense, it's much safer. Yeah.
All right. I'm running out of time and I have a huge thing. Can I ask one more question or am I done?
We're out of
All right.
time, Andrew. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you
All
guys.
right.
Great presentations.
Thank you, judges. Kira?
Judges, if I can have you guys mute your mic and actually turn off your camera. Right now, we're going to join me on the call. You have the phone number for that. My boss, Walt, is going to be introducing the next speaker, but he basically manages the program executives for within the Space Technology Mission Directorate office. He's pretty amazing, and he's going to brief I didn't get to finish saying it. He's going to give you a brief overview of some of the great opportunities you have to engage with NASA.
Hey, thanks, Kira, and thanks, everybody. Great set of presentations. In just a minute, I'm going to introduce the keynote speaker here, Lieutenant Governor John Houston. But what I thought I'd do to start is give you a quick overview of the Space Technology Mission Directorate, which is one of the 4 primary mission directorates within NASA, and actually the home of the iTech program, which is our host for this event today. So before I do that, I want to say thank you to Kira, our program executive. She does an amazing job, and also to our partners, the National Institute of Aerospace, who run this, do all the behind the scenes orchestrating. They do a great job in a live setting. I wish we were all here in person together, but they've pivoted and they've figured out how to make this work in a virtual environment. And I think you've seen that today. So nice job to the NIA. Thank you very much. So Robin, if you could go to the next slide, and I'll give you a quick overview. Space Technology Mission Directorate develops technologies that enable both robotic and human spaceflight missions. And our programs, there are 11, span the range of what we call the technology readiness level. TRL age is really a measure of where a technology is in the development at the very low end of fundamental physics and nascent technologies, all the way up to the TRL 9, we call them, which are the technologies that have been infused and are actually in operational missions. So as I said, STMD has 11 programs, starting on the left down there, the early stage innovation portfolio. We've got the NASA Innovative Advanced Concepts program, Space Technology Research Grants, which is really our organization that interfaces and interacts with the university communities. The Center Innovation Fund, which partners early career NASA employees with early career commercial company employees and gives them an opportunity to develop technologies sort of in a hands-on early career to give them the skills and capabilities to manage technology development. And then we have our Partnerships and Technology Transfer Office. So we actually manage the agency's technology transfer, licensing, and portfolios. We've got a Prizes and Challenges program, and then, of course, the iTech program, which I think you're now all familiar with through this event. We do manage the agency's small business innovative research portfolio and technology transfer research programs with small businesses and universities. I'll tell you a little more about that because that might be of interest to some of you in just a few minutes. And then we have our tech maturation portfolio, which is the game-changing development office, which is really the organization of the program that carries technologies across what we call the valley of death, the TRL 3 to 6, where technologies really need some infusion and development to get them from the laboratory to a point where they're ready to actually demonstrate, and in our case, in a space environment generally. We've got something called the Lunar Surface Innovation Initiative, which is not actually a program yet, but really an umbrella initiative that spans all of our programs and is focused on taking technologies and developing them for lunar exploration, which is getting a lot of attention right now, both from the robotic world and the human exploration world. And then finally, we have our big technology demonstration programs where we take technologies and demonstrate them in a spaceflight environment, whether that's through big missions or in small spacecraft technologies, a lot of interest in CubeSats and small sats. We also have a flight opportunities program where we actually provide rides to space on a variety of platforms, both suborbital and all the way to orbit, and make those available to entrepreneurs and technology developers so that they can get demonstrated in a space flight environment. So Robin, why don't you go to the next slide? We call this the money chart. Might be of interest to a few of you. We award over $600 million worth of technology investment money to academic research institutions, to nonprofits, and to commercial industries. And this is a listing of all the different solicitations throughout the year. The ones that are in green are the ones that are active right now. If you actually search space tech and solicitations, it will take you to our webpage that gives you all of the solicitation opportunities and the timelines and the ones that are actually open, what the rules and regulations are for actually submitting a solicitation. I would say this community might be interested in the Small Business Innovative Research, or SBIR programs. We award over $200 million a year to small businesses and companies through that program. And you can see the rest of them there. And again, if you're interested, just do a search, Space Tech Solicitations. So I think what I'll do now, if Robin, you go to the next slide, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Lieutenant Governor John Husted. I can think of no one more qualified to speak to this group of entrepreneurs than the Lieutenant Governor. He's had an amazing career. He is a native of Ohio. He was raised in Northwest Ohio, Williams County. He earned both his bachelor's and his master's degree from the University of Dayton, where he was an All-American defensive back and a member of University of Dayton's 1989 Division III National Championship football team. He received his master's degree. Following that, he remained in the Miami Valley and served as the Vice President for Economic Development at the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. Later, as the Secretary of State, John made it his mission to make Ohio the best state in the Midwest to do business by improving customer services and reducing wait time for entrepreneurs. In 2017, the Secretary announced the efficiencies in his office had not only allowed him to cut the fees the state charged to Ohio entrepreneurs, but also to eliminate the need for taxpayer funding for the government office entirely for the remainder of his term, a move that has saved taxpayers millions of dollars. On November 6th of 2018, John was elected to serve as the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio. He previously served as the Ohio Secretary of State, the Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives, and a member of the Ohio Senate. He is currently in his role and serves on the Ohio Common Sense Initiative, serves as the director of both the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation and Innovate Ohio. So please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor John Husted.
It's great to join you today. I'm going to have to be brief because I was only slotted to be here until 4:45, and I've got some things backing up, but I will get to the point. I was listening to some of the pitches of the things that are going on, very impressive. My role in the administration is really to focus on an economic portfolio, everything from workforce to regulations to innovation. And I know the other day I was talking to Colonel Joe Zeese, who is Senior Advisor for Aerospace and Defense in our administration. Governor DeWine appointed him to that role. And we were talking about the idea of Ohio potentially being named as the home for the U.S. Space Command headquarters. And we know that the Secretary of the Air Force will be conducting a competition for this. They're looking for perhaps a non-traditional location for this kind of facility. It would put up to 400 personnel in that role, and we believe that Ohio is perfectly positioned for this. We have a single nomination that we made for Wright-Patterson in the Dayton area, as it's got great linkages to aerospace and the Space Force, and we are excited about our prospects there. Ohio is, with the Wright brothers, with John Glenn, with Neil Armstrong, it's right in our wheelhouse. We're the place for this to be. But as Lieutenant Governor, my role that I spend a lot of time on is the head of Innovate Ohio. We want to make Ohio the most innovative entrepreneurial state in the Midwest. We're focused on using technology to improve the way we serve our customers, taxpayers in the state of Ohio, and make Ohio the most innovative, creative, and entrepreneurial state. And one of the things that was in my mind when we conceived of this was the issue of all the technology we have out there, all the innovation, all the intellectual property that's out across our university system, and how hard it has been to bring that to the marketplace, to commercialize that. And so we conceived of the Ohio IP Promise, the Ohio IP meaning intellectual property promise, to help eliminate the frustration, make that much easier. We benchmarked ourselves against the best institutions in the nation, and we launched the IP Promise last year. And it brings together Ohio's higher education institutions to a unified process, into a unified process for commercialization, making it easy for students, faculty, businesses, entrepreneurs to commercialize those activities. And many schools, all of our public institutions in the state, two of our privates, the University of Dayton and Case Western Reserve, have been involved with this in establishing the principles of flexibility, being transparent, making it simple, clear, easy, and fast. That's the way we want to do this. That's the way that our universities have agreed to do this. The Inter-University Council was a big part of this. It's on a single page on all their websites. If you want to know how to commercialize in Ohio, it's right there. It's simple and easy, uniform. And to highlight this, one of our early successes was in April when the University of Dayton faculty member who was developing software that was very accurate at diagnosing COVID using x-rays. This one was one of the first licenses that was completed since we put this together. And it's the Ohio IP Promise was credited for helping put this agreement together in 2.5 days. So it's speed to market. It's making it easy and simple, and I'm glad to see that my alma mater was one of the first to take advantage of this, and also to see, because when you're doing this, it's not just the university, it's not just the IP, it's about helping people. It's about getting this into the marketplace, helping people. This is a real world example of how we were able to do that. I also want to emphasize our role in broadband and helping more Ohioans, more people get access. Look, during COVID, we always knew that access to high-speed internet was important. During COVID, it became vital for telehealth, for telework, for education. You can't participate in the modern economy, education system, or healthcare system without it. Yet there are many people across this state, across this nation, who don't have access to it. We're knocking down the barriers to make that happen in Ohio. We've got some really cool things that are on the horizon that we believe are going to change the face of how people get access to the internet in our state. I also want to mention the Common Sense Initiative, because there's a tech piece to this. we all hate regulations, right? When it makes life difficult and harder to comply with. We know that government sometimes makes it hard. I would liken to the situation is that we've had rules and laws in our country for over 200 years, and it's frankly time for a little house cleaning. And we're using an AI tool, machine learning tool, that's going to go through the entire revised code and our administrative code and help to streamline the regulatory process, eliminate old, unnecessarily duplicative ones with the supervision of our regulatory agencies. It's not just a machine tool, it's helping machine learning help our agencies get this process cleaned up and do regulatory reform in a truly innovative sort of way. And we're excited about what we hope to accomplish there. And finally on workforce. I often say you can't, the modern economy requires capital, it requires innovation, but it also requires talent. And whether you have a 4% unemployment rate or 11% unemployment rate, as a lot of parts of our nation are going through now, tech talent is incredibly important. Why one of our strategic initiatives is something called Tech Cred, which is going to help upskill 10,000 people a year in the workplace, people who already have jobs, to help upskill them to become technologically proficient, to get an industry credential, to earn that credential in less than a year. And we pay up to $2,000 for every one of those that an employer helps an employee get. Makes that employee more marketable, makes them able to earn more, gives them more job security, and gives employers the talent they need. You combine that with our Choose Ohio First Scholarship, which is a STEM scholarship for Ohio high school graduates that also accompany internships and co-ops. And we have a very robust attempt in the state to get people the skills they need, to be innovative, to be creative, to be a force for themselves and for the businesses that they're working for. And those are just some of the things that we're thinking about in our state to help give us a competitive advantage, to help give our people the skills and the entrepreneurial backing that they need to be successful. And I know that everything I described in some form or fashion is relevant in all of you who are participating in this today. I recognize and want to honor all of the entrepreneurs who are using innovation to try to do things better and to partner, to find partners with NASA to help power our country forward. Entrepreneurship, good government, and progress as a society all fit together very well. We're all part of this, and I wish you all great success.
Thank you so much.
Since we have Walt here, also it'd be a great opportunity if you guys wanted to ask him about any of the opportunities he mentioned. He would be most familiar with it. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Give the judges a little more time. Must be good competition.
Do we have any questions for either Walt or the Lieutenant Governor? Actually, I'm sorry, the Lieutenant had to leave.
Okay. Yes. Well, my name's Gary Wakeford. I'm with Aeiou Scientific. And thank you. You gave us some basic information on some sites to go to, but what would be your suggestions on how we could really kind of sift through it and understand which programs we might best align with so that we could try to get involved with?
Yeah, that's a good question, Gary. Thanks. I think I don't know how familiar you are with the SBIR program in general, the Small Business Association, which is really government-wide, but I can tell you NASA has a really vibrant and vital SBIR program for small businesses. That really is the entry point. And I will tell you, once you get in to the SBIR program, they have an annual solicitation. I think this year it'll start up again in January. The phase one awards are small or smallish at $125K. But if you have a phase one award, you're basically eligible for phase twos and a variety of follow-on programs. We just started a new, effectively phase three, we call it the Lunar Sequential Program, and that is up to $5 million of funding that would follow a phase one and a phase two. So it's becoming financially lucrative, I would say. It's not just the small 125K drops that it had been traditionally. So Depending on your technology and your interest in actually demonstrating in a spaceflight environment, we've got a variety of rideshare opportunities, either as a suborbital or actually orbital space delivery services. If you bring the payload, we'll fly it for you for essentially no cost. We provide the integration and flights. There are a number of partner opportunities with universities. That's through the STTR program, which is part of SBIR. So if you're involved with a university partner, I think there are certainly opportunities there. And probably our biggest solicitation of the year is something we call Tipping Point, which is really geared at demonstrations at the digit or even double digit, tens of millions of dollars, most often in a space flight environment. But that's kind of a general overview. I would encourage you to go to the Space Tech Solicitations website, and there's a pretty good rundown. We generally keep that up to date with the upcoming solicitations, the ones that are active and the ones that are forthcoming. So I encourage you to take a look there at your convenience.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Are there any other questions for Walt?
I also have a question.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Abbas Semnani. I'm an assistant professor of electrical engineering at the University of Toledo. So we also had a virtual meeting today between the NASA Glenn Research Center and the University of Toledo, and they also told us a lot about the programs that we can go for and those kind of things. But before any of those, based on my experience, making a good connection to the people there, to the actual scientists there, that their work is very relevant to your work is very important. You have to first know which part of NASA, which program of NASA, which center of NASA you have to approach, and which exact people. So what is your recommendation in this area? Okay, I know about the programs, I know about the solicitations, but even before applying for those, if I know a group of people that are doing exactly the same thing that we are doing here or are interested in what we are doing here, that will be much more maybe useful. So do you have any recommendation in that direction?
I do. There's actually a conference workshop. We call it the Innovation and Opportunities Conference. It's coming up in, I wish I had the date. I believe it's early November, but just do a search on Innovation Opportunities Conference. It is intended to do exactly what you're asking, to partner up and show you where the opportunities and the connection with the NASA programs, not just within Space Technology Mission Director, but across all of NASA, and help entrepreneurs and small businesses understand where the interfaces are and make connections and understand what our needs are from a technology or a mission capability are, and give you the insight into the solicitations and opportunities across the agency. So again, it's Innovation and Opportunities Conference. It was actually intended to be held in the Ohio area this year. We held the last 2 years. It was out in Denver, Colorado. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be virtual like everything else these days, but I think that would be an excellent place for you to engage and help make some connections.
Thank you. That was very useful. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Thanks.
Any other questions? Actually, Walt, I have one from YouTube, from Edison State Community College. Are there any opportunities for students? I'm particularly looking for information technology. Any information to forward back to Edison State Community College?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a technology research grants program. Is really the program that engages with a whole variety of solicitations with universities, both at the student level and at the faculty level. So just look for Space Technology Research Grants on our website. Claudia Meyer runs that. I could I'll just give you that name and you can search for her. But I think if you go to the webpage, you can probably find her as well under the program executives listing. She has, I think it's 8 different solicitation opportunities and activities, both at the student undergraduate, at the undergraduate, and the faculty level, as well as space technology research institutes where universities partner up and propose. So that's a great set of programs and really our biggest outreach opportunity for students and faculty at the university community.
Thank you, Walt, for actually answering those questions. I hope it was helpful, and then actually speaking and giving them the opportunity to see other ways in which to engage with NASA. So we appreciate that. And I just want to say that just remember my sort of little spill before. If you weren't selected, we can only select one. It was very close, I have to say that, with the selection, and actually it was a tie. And so there had to be a tiebreaker, which doesn't usually happen. But what I would like to say is that, all of you are pouring your lives, your talent, your gifts into developing things that are trying to change the world. Don't ever give up on that, because you enter a competition and you weren't the top company selected. Because the things that we look for is what's applicable to NASA, or how quick we could actually get something, or that will get to market so it could be useful for us, or the needs for the agency, as well as the commercial market application. And so just keep that in mind, and don't stop doing what you're doing, because you guys are the ones that are changing the world. And so we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for letting us be a part of this. Okay, and I'll hand it off to Peter.
Well, thank you, Kira. I'm pleased to be here to represent the judges, and particularly the Chief Technologist Council. First of all, I want to thank all the presenters for their enthusiasm and for their product idea and bringing it all the way to this point. As we all saw, there's a number of very exciting new technologies that are applicable, both terrestrially on Earth for current humankind on the surface of this Earth, and also for the future space programs. We had a very difficult decision to make to winnow this down from these very exciting products. As Kira mentioned, there was a number that were neck and neck, I should say, and made it very difficult for us. As far as the winners, I will say anyone who's in this set of presenters are going to win by taking to this point, but we had to choose just one, and Kira holds us to this, although there is often the case, as in this case, we might want to award more than one. So with that being said, I just want to announce that we've chosen Aeiou as a winner of this event's iTech. It was a very exciting technology. It has very strong utility here on Earth very soon. We think that it provides a really nice diagnostic tool to measure bone strength. It's very important in our current population. Just me? Thank you. But it's also had very strong impact for as we go to start faring further away from our home planet Earth. Although the initial product line does not identify an exact product in space, we know just pre and post space flight will be useful, and we hope that it will be advanced so that we can use it as we move away from this Earth. So again, thank you for everyone for participating, and congratulations to Aeiou for a superior presentation and product.
And right now we'd like for the Aeiou to just give a few words to the audience. I know we're running over, but.
Sure. Well, I'll make it very brief. Thank you very, very much. This is a very humbling experience. Very privileged that you have chosen to select our company. I'd like to thank NASA for the opportunity, but mainly the entire state of Ohio. I don't know that the entrepreneurs out there realize the incredible support system that Ohio offers. We have had help from the Innovation Center at Ohio University, from Youngstown Business Incubator, from BioEnterprise, from Bounce in Akron, from Ohio State University. I'm born and raised Ohio. I love it with all my heart, and I don't think there's a better state in the country in which to try to launch a company. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. And with that, that's a wrap for the Ignite the Night Ohio. Thank you, everybody, for participating. And we enjoy that you guys shared with us a few hours each day for the last couple weeks to allow us to get to know you better. We hope we get to see you again in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.